Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of What Happened in History. And our topic for today is Industrial Revolution. I'm your host Amna Ishfaq, and today we will be joined by our guest very soon. The Industrial Revolution. It influenced the lifestyle of people. It upgraded the industry of factories and agriculture. It increased the availability of jobs but affected the agriculture system because 90% of the jobs involved agriculture. So, the Industrial Revolution is basically manufacturing of goods. It began in the period of 1716 and was revolutionized by 1820 to 1840. Although this is a very debatable topic among the historians because there isn't a precise start or end. The Industrial Revolution began in Britain and within a few decades it was spread across Western Europe and North America. The Industrial Revolution started with goods made with hands to goods manufactured by machines. The development of machines in factories was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and it left impacts on the social, historical, economic, environmental, and political attributes, which is what we will be looking at today. Firstly, economical, which is one part out of five in the Industrial Revolution. Technological innovations were made in Britain because the economic industry needed a boost. The machines that were constantly producing yarn were one of the reasons that increased the economy. 7 years later, an American built a machine based on a Britain model that increased the economy of US. The machine proved to be extremely beneficial as it produced excessive amount of goods in less time. However, this didn't fulfill the demand. There was more need of goods because of the lifestyle of every American citizen. Multiple other elements were required. Another tool which played a hand in changing the economy was a new strategy to increase the amount of goods while decreasing the time. More productivity. In other words, the economy was benefited from the productivity of the new models in comparison to the goods that were manufactured by hands. This meant that the speed of global trading was faster as the goods were being manufactured at a faster rate. Therefore, this component played a role in the increase of economy. The following also played a role. Newcomen engine, the spinning jenny, the spinning mule, the flying shuttle, the bottom NY engine, and etc. They created a vast amount of jobs. However, this changed the system of agriculture because majority of population migrated to urban areas. This was because they worked in factories for more than 12 hours to earn more wages. Furthermore, a lot of farms' purpose was changed. Instead of use of agriculture, businessmen used it to operate machines. This led to a rise in middle and upper class family. It created a strong division between the two classes, which were the citizens of lower and upper classes. Speaking of social classes, let's move to the second part out of 5, social. The Industrial Revolution adequately changed the structure of social class in Britain. The Industrial Revolution involved significant impacts as the lifestyle of global classes citizens improved in comparison to their way of life in the past. Life expectancy increased, the amount of population increased. Also, after the 18th century, a gradual increase in literature and education was spotted. Furthermore, men more frequently worked at factories while women did domestic chores. Also, stuff like journals, books, newspaper were printed way more frequently due to steam engines being applied to the printing press. Printing industry is one of the factors that produced the growth of literacy, which allowed the circulation of local and national newspaper in societies. This gave the opportunity to writers to write novels which were based on lower classes. An example of this is the novel called Oliver Twist, which is an eye-opener for rich families. Ever since then, books were read by every class, including factory owners to noblemen. Living conditions improved greatly, and death rates were being declined. which was caused by the Industrial Revolution. Due to focus on health, which caused improvements in that department, common diseases like cholera and typhus didn't stay as common with prevention medicines. So the improvements made in healthcare resulted in a decline in infant mortality. This automatically made an increase in population. Now on to the third part out of 5, political. During the 19th century, when the governments colonized countries, it suggested a message that the government holds massive power over people. This resulted in colonization of Africa and Asia. Other industrial countries like in Europe and including the Great Britain went for a search of lands to colonize. This was because they wanted to use it as a ready market for their finished industrial goods. Therefore, colonial empires were carved out by the industrial countries in the 19th century. Moving on, peasants always looked up to government when they needed to cope with dreadful situations. So the laws and the political procedure needed to go through changes. So the British Parliament started discussing ideas and then putting them into action in order to get rid of the Great Stink. Therefore, the project of sewers developed in 1858. Also, the rates of crimes in the urban areas was rising significantly, so some extremely harsh laws were made by the Parliament. However, just some laws didn't slow down the rate of crimes. This is because of the difference in age group and the significant amount of criminals. So the Great Britain colonized a land and shipped them off there. This land is Australia. Now on to the fourth part out of 5, which is also the second last, environment. The Industrial Revolution has marked a great turning point in Earth's ecology and us humans' relationship with the environment. It has dramatically changed the human lifestyle without a doubt. There were many environmental issues caused by the manufacturing of massive machines and other substances that led to unbalance in the environment. Now please welcome our guest for tonight, Ms. Ishfaq. Ms. Ishfaq, could you please tell us more about the environment during the Industrial Revolution?
Thank you for having me. As for the environment, well, by the mid-20th century, it suffered through air pollution and water pollution. This was caused by development of coal mining and the functioning of steam power. Major industrial cities caused water pollution, which led to overflow of rivers to the urban areas. Sewage was one of the main reasons for the act of water pollution. The sewage was out on the street, and this was disastrous because eventually it went to the rivers. This meant contamination and water pollution. Could I please also add some background information?
Yes, please go on.
Thank you. Well, what I was going to say is that, as you would already know, the conditions for the working class was extremely poor. The houses that they were provided with were always constructed so poorly. Why? Well, obviously because the factories or owners didn't pay a lot for it. So, the working class people were just living in one room, which was their bedroom, kitchen, or living room, well, everything basically. Also, their never-leaving roommates were rats. This led to breakouts of many diseases. Another cause of disease were narrow streets, which were filled with sewage because there was no plan, which consisted of throwing the rubbish out. So diseases like cholera or typhus were extremely common. This was obviously because people left their rubbish on streets, which then went to the rivers eventually and caused the diseases. Well, just imagine the hygiene and the health of our environment because of this.
Yes, indeed, that is very true.
Thank you, Ms. Ishfaq, for your time and your information. I really appreciate it.
Now on to the last part, historical. The massive developments that we witness with our eyes today is occurring thanks to the Industrial Revolution, because it is what gave a shape to our world. This revolution in the whole history can never be forgotten because it allowed structured developing in countries we live in today. The mass production, world population, spread of education, availability of goods, global economy, and environmental issues such as global warming are all factors of the Industrial Revolution. One of the main features of the Industrial Revolution is the rapid developing countries such as the UAE. UAE is known to be one of the top 10 fastest developing countries in the whole world. And we have the Industrial Revolution to thank for this feature.
Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of Industrial Revolution. Also, you may have realized that you have lived through Industrial Revolution one way or another. Well, I'm your host Amna Ishfaq, and that's it for today's episode. Join us again on Monday sharp at 8 o'clock.